The Chainsaw Man movie is now officially out, so the question that everyone is asking is which movie is better? The Chainsaw Man movie, Reze arc, or the Demon Slayer movie, Infinity Castle arc, Part 1. Now, I'm going to go in, I'm going to compare and contrast these two, and I'm going to come to my conclusion of which one I think is better. But I want to hear your thoughts, so smash it down in the comment section below, smash that like button, click subscribe, and let's get straight to this video right now. Now, before we get into contrasting and comparing these things, I just want to put this out there. Remember, this is subjective. Everyone's going to have a different opinion. It's art. We all see things and view things and feel things differently when we're watching different movies. So don't go telling people that they're wrong or not, because everyone is different. Now, I'm going to be as unbiased as I can be. Even though I love both of these movies and I love both of the franchises, I'm going to be as fair as possible, and I'm not going to use any of my bias to go straight into it. So let's get to the first category. So we're going to start off with the animation, because this is one of the big talking points. Which movie had the better animation? Now, when it comes to Demon Slayer, we know what they are capable of. Ufotable just somehow come out and create realism out of absolute nothingness. They somehow make you believe you are watching a real-life explosion on the screen. Yeah, not drawn, not CG, it looks freaking real. That is the level of animation that we're talking when it comes to Demon Slayer. We all know that. I mean, this is the studio that handles Fate as well, so you know. But on the other hand, you have Chainsaw Man, who is done by Mappa, who have actually really stepped up their game. Obviously, we got the Sukuna fight from them as well. Obviously, they do Chainsaw Man, and in this movie, the animation is unbelievable as well. So when you have two powerhouses coming together with some of the best animation you are going to see, who wins? Who comes out on top? Now, for me personally, as much as I love the Chainsaw Man animation, I think everything to do with the fight was fantastic animation-wise. It looked gorgeous. The colors, the art direction. It was stunning. And look, I'm not saying Chainsaw Man animation is bad. I'm saying the Chainsaw Man animation was a 10 out of 10. But when we're comparing these two, they're both 10 out of 10, but we got to start to go into the nitpicking, and, you know, this is where personal preference just starts to come in. Now, why I think it's absolutely fantastic, I just feel like Demon Slayer's animation is just that little bit more better than what they came out with the Chainsaw Man. And it's just because the way that they're able to create the background imagery here. The Infinity Castle itself throughout the movie is freaking unbelievably gorgeous. You're sitting there and you're just watching. They take a manga panel, and the way they create it, it's unlike anything we've seen before. It is so peak, so real, that you feel like you are actually in a real life Infinity Castle. Now, when it comes to the action as well, I just think it's a little bit more cleaner when it comes to Demon Slayer, and just the art direction and the way that they're able to create the colors is just on a little bit extra level than what we got with Chainsaw Man. Now, I saw both of these in IMAX, so I saw them on the biggest screen possible, and for me, personal preference, I think Demon Slayer's animation was just a little bit better than the Chainsaw Man one, but that is not saying that that's bad. I mean, we're talking about two 10 out of 10s, like I said. So when you do this, you gotta go into really nitpicking, and there's not much between them. I'm not saying there's a huge gap. There's a really, really tiny gap, but I'm just gonna edge it to the Demon Slayer movie. The next category is gonna be music and score. Now, obviously, when you're dealing with movies or TV shows or anime, anything to do with this sort of stuff, or even an audiobook, score and music can change and make and break a movie. You could have a song that is so out of place that it ruins the sequence, but then you could have a song or a score that just hits and adds an extra emotional level to that sequence. And both movies have an exceptional score. Like, we're talking, I can listen to both these scores. Now, when it comes to who has the better score, we know Demon Slayer's score. I mean, they've had it ever since the very first season. It's been an absolute fantastic score, and this movie takes a little bit of the old scores and redoes them and moves things around and develops its own identity, while also getting that little nostalgia from the previous seasons and movies that you absolutely love. Now, Zenitsu's theme is unbelievable. Giyu, when he gets the mark, is unbelievable. Like, that music was so good. But Chainsaw Man, that freaking score. So when it's a romance at the start, the score is phenomenal. You feel the emotion. You feel what Deji's feeling in that moment. You feel like you are watching a romance. And the scenes are elevated to another level. The action, the music, the score for the action is so insanely great for Chainsaw Man. It's upbeat. It's got a little techno to it, but a little heavy metal as well. So if you're a rock fan and a heavy metal fan with a little bit of techno in that, it's perfect. It really is. And it added to the sequence, especially when Denji really gets into it and comes out of nowhere. And it's like that beat going on. You want to get out of your seat. You want to get out of your seat and you want to stand and cheer as if you're at a freaking sports game cheering for Denji while he's fighting the Bomb Devil. So for me, as close as they are, and as much as I love the Demon Slayer score, I have to give it to the Chainsaw Man score because that was just beautifully done, and I think it just executed those other scenes in the romance side that tipped it to that scale for me. So that is what I'm talking about when it comes to the score. I'm giving it Chainsaw Man. We're moving on to the characters. Now, when it comes to these two movies, you gotta remember that they're at two different stages in the series. Now, for me, obviously, when you're dealing with a Demon Slayer Infinity Castle arc movie, you're dealing with the ending of the series. So we've already had majority of the character arcs and the stories, and that we're now coming to the conclusion of them. Where for Chainsaw Man, we just only had season 1, so we are still developing our main character. So when it comes to the characters, you're looking at Demon Slayer. Really, the major character who got the most development is Akaza, which is a villain in this movie. He has the big character development and the story in this one. We get the whole backstory to him. Tanjiro, we know what he is because we've been following him for over 4 seasons now in another movie. Like, we know what his goal is, where he's going. Zenitsu has a little bit here because of the events that have happened. Shinobu gets a little bit as well. But overall, it's really Akaza's story that is carrying the character development in this movie. Which is understandable because we know where we're going. Because this is like an Avengers level movie when it comes to that. Where Chainsaw Man, on the other hand, we're dealing with Denji still growing and maturing as a character. Maturing into an adult, trying to find love. So you have him developing these feelings for the first time naturally and not being forced and not trying to force it upon himself to do that. And now what does he do? Being torn between, do I go with the girl who, I feel like my heart's full, but my body and everything else, its instincts are telling me that I like this girl here. Reze, she has a great character arc as well from when you first meet her to the big twist and then the ending. So you have that. Akia also has a character moment in here, and so does the Angel Devil has a character moment in here as well. He gets developed. So there are so many more characters being developed in the Chainsaw Man movie than actually in the Demon Slayer movie. And that is not saying it's a bad thing because we know where the Demon Slayer movie is and what it's trying to do and what it's effectively going to be. Chainsaw Man movie is still developing the main characters and everything like that. So for me, I'm going to say the more depth and character work was actually in the Chainsaw Man movie, and I think it was better done in there because of the timing and the nature of the movie compared to the Demon Slayer movie, where we only really got the one character development, which is Akaza, which was, Akaza is one of my favorite characters in Demon Slayer. I love him. He's one of my favorite villains because of that backstory. It's so sweet, heartfelt, heartbreaking. It's got everything, but I just think there's more in the Chainsaw Man movie. So for me, the characters, it's going to go to the Chainsaw Man. Now we move on to story, and like I said in the character one, this one is almost tied into the characters because you need the characters to serve the story. When we're talking about the movies, like I said, we have an Avengers movie, which is the Demon Slayer movie. This is like Infinity War and Endgame. Like, we're in that stage here, where Chainsaw Man, it's like Captain America Winter Soldier. Let's say that. It's like that. We're still getting to know these characters and that. So when it comes to the story, I think what Chainsaw Man does really, really well compared to the Demon Slayer movie is it can stand on its own. You don't have to watch season 1 to understand this movie because it's so early on in the story. You can understand from where this movie takes place and how it develops the character, so you get an idea. Where the Demon Slayer movie, on one hand, because of where the story is at in this movie, this would be like someone going in and watching Endgame and not knowing anything about the MCU if you haven't watched the first 4 seasons of Demon Slayer. You're not going to know where we are. You're not going to know this. So you're going to see this movie and be like, they didn't really develop the characters. Because this movie isn't meant to stand on its own. It's meant to be a part of a trilogy of movies and a part of a whole entire 4 season series. So you're supposed to have that backstory and that story leading up to this event, because this movie is all about the fights. It's about the climactic battle. That's really what it is. Where Chainsaw Man, like I said, is developing the story still. It's moving Denji forward with his maturity, growing into the character and understanding these feelings, while also pushing the story and narrative of like, why do they want Chainsaw Man's heart? Who are these villains? They're popping up and stuff. Who is linked to the Gun Devil? The Gun Devil is now sending assassins, are they? So I feel like there is a lot more story in the Chainsaw Man movie than the Demon Slayer movie. And like I've said before, it's just the timing and the nature of when these movies take place within their story to why that is. So for me, story-wise, it's gonna go to Chainsaw Man just because of those reasonings. Now, when we come to pacing, which is an integral part to a movie, pacing can make or break a movie. It really can. You could have the greatest story of all time written, but if you have horrible pacing, your movie's going to be bland and boring because people are going to get tired. And this is something that is so important when putting together a script, that a lot of things will get cut from scripts because the pacing doesn't work. Because when you are creating a movie, you're trying to engage the audience. You want them to be engaged the whole entire runtime. And in order to do that, you need to find out and figure out the correct pacing of your movie so it doesn't feel like it's dragging on. So a 2-hour movie doesn't feel like a 4-hour movie. You know, you could have a 4-hour movie that feels like a 2-hour movie because of the pacing, and it's just so engaging. So when we compare these two movies pacing-wise, there's only one clear winner. And look, I love long movies. Don't get me wrong. I am a huge Christopher Nolan fan. I love the longer movies. I can sit down and watch a 3-hour, 4-hour movie. I love the Lord of the Rings extended cuts as well. I can sit there and watch movies like that. But I would be lying if I didn't say my biggest critique of the Demon Slayer movie was the pacing. There was a pacing issue there where it does drag at certain times, and it does feel like, oh yeah, maybe you could have taken a little bit out here and condensed it here to make it run a little bit smoother and engage. Where Chainsaw Man, it doesn't have that feeling. I think the balance that they created with the romance side at the start and then the action made it flow really, really well, that you never felt like, oh, this feels like it's a 4-hour movie. Like, this did not feel like it was that long for me when I was watching Chainsaw Man. I thought this was like, I was like, oh, so I've just watched, what, 2 episodes here? That's what it felt like because of the pacing. Where Demon Slayer, there was times where you're sitting there and you're like, oh, I swear I've already been here for like 3 hours. We must be getting close. So pacing wise, it's going to go to Chainsaw Man. And I think everyone else who has watched the Demon Slayer movie has a pacing issue with it. I don't think I'm alone in that. I think we all agree that the pacing of the movie could have been a little bit better. And the final category is the action and fights. I mean, we have 2 epic battles. Well, I mean, we have multiple battles going on in Demon Slayer, but we have this epic battle going on in Chainsaw Man, which the Bomb Devil was freaking awesome. To watch her fight Chainsaw Man was great. You know, her and Denji going back and forth with Beam was great. And I loved it, especially when we had Typhoon show up and it just added that extra element. You know, buildings being destroyed. It was epic. It was so creative as well, the way that they're able to showcase Chainsaw Man, use the different powers that he has, the Bomb Devil showcasing some powers and what abilities she can use. So I thought that was all fantastic. But I'm sorry, I'm giving it to Demon Slayer here because the Akaza versus Giyu Tanjiro fight was just unreal. Like, it's one of the best anime fights I have seen. It is so freaking good. Now, that's not saying the Chainsaw Man fight is not great. The Chainsaw Man fight is freaking phenomenal, and I will be watching that fight multiple times. Don't you get it wrong. I love that fight. But I just feel like the main fight of the Demon Slayer movie was a fight I was really excited for, and the way that they did it was fantastic. And it showcased you everything mixed in with the animation. I just thought that fight was just on another tier when it came to this fight. So I'm gonna give the fight to Demon Slayer. So yeah. So in conclusion, for me, if I take everything I have just said into consideration, I would give the edge to Chainsaw Man at the end of the day. It would be the better movie for me when it comes to who is the better movie. I'm going to edge it slightly based on everything I said, what I've said, and who I gave it all to. It's going to end up with the Chainsaw Man winning this one here. But that's not me saying that you can't think the Demon Slayer movie's better, because everything hits everyone differently. And if you think it is, that is awesome. And like I said, I love both these movies. I think these are absolutely phenomenal movies. And what Demon Slayer has done for the anime community and this space and how much money it made at the box office is freaking huge. And it is changing the landscape of anime for all of us. And I think it's doing what I don't think any of us expected it to do. And Chainsaw Man following suit with it, I think is going to open up a whole new world for us, which I'm super excited for. So for me, those two, you could go either way. I'm not going to argue with which one is better, but ultimately I'd probably edge it to Chainsaw Man. But, you know, I don't even think these two are the best animated films of the year. In my opinion, I still have Najan 2 as the best animated film. I think that film is absolutely incredible. I still think it's the best film, period, of the whole entire year that I've seen. So that's another debate for another thing. I think China have just been cooking this year with their donwas and stuff. It's just been unbelievable. But let me know your thoughts down below. Smash that like button, click subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, stay safe